News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
A man held without bond on charges of human trafficking, perhaps kidnapping, and assault in Billings. Good morning, everyone. Montana Morning for Thursday, September 22nd, 2016. Right now, we've had some light rain, some heavy rain overnight, light rain right now. It's 48 degrees in Missoula. Our newscast sponsored by Selway Armory on Stockyard Road, with more guns and ammo than anyone in Missoula. They're Montana's premier firearms dealer. Our top story this morning across the state, 34-year-old Terrence Tyrell Edwards is in custody in Billings on suspicion of human trafficking for allegedly kidnapping and assaulting a 22-year-old Lake County woman. Lake County Sheriff Don Bell provides some details.
This Terrence Tyrell Edwards lured this victim to Missoula, and at that point ditched her car and basically was kidnapped until she was able to give a call yesterday.
The woman was able to contact her family, who just happened to be in Bell's office at that moment, discussing her disappearance. The family was able to get little bits and pieces about where she was being held that led to her rescue.
I know they set up a sting operation for him and waited for him to come back to the location where that suspect would have believed that female was still unable to escape. So they laid in wait for him to return and got him in custody.
Edwards has a history here in Missoula. He was sentenced to 5 years probation by District Judge Robert L. Dusty Deshaw in 2012 for promotion of prostitution. He completed probation just days after he allegedly kidnapped the Polson woman. Because the victim may have been transported across state lines, the FBI may become involved. Edwards is being held without bail in the Yellowstone County Jail. A 51-year-old Montana man was killed in a motorcycle accident in southeastern Wyoming over the weekend. The Highway Patrol said 51-year-old Thomas French was eastbound on U.S. Highway 30, about 12 miles west of Medicine Bow, Sunday evening when he lost control of his motorcycle. French, who was not wearing a helmet, was thrown from the motorcycle and died at the scene. 20-year-old Jason Devin Lenore appeared in Missoula Justice Court yesterday, accused of raping his ex-girlfriend. Deputy Missoula County Attorney Brittany Santorno explained why the state wanted such a high bail of $100,000.
We'd be requesting bail in the amount of $100,000. This defendant admitted to breaking into the victim's home through her window while she had an order of protection against him at the time. When he was inside her home, he admitted that he had had sex with her while she was passed out, intoxicated.
Santorno said there were other aspects of the incident that warranted such a high bail.
This clearly is a major offense. He poses a high risk to the community, and additionally he has little community ties. He is from Texas, and his criminal history shows an aggravated assault arrest in Texas approximately a month ago, right before he came back to Montana.
Judge Anderson set bail at $100,000 and remanded Lenore back to the Missoula County Jail. 24-year-old Jordan Standing Rock stood before Judge Anderson yesterday as well, accused of firing a handgun that injured another man, grazing his head. According to court records, Standing Rock confronted the victim and another man on the California Street footbridge. During an argument, Standing Rock placed a handgun against the victim's head and threatened to shoot him. Standing Rock then walked about 10 feet away and fired the weapon into the ground. Deputy County Attorney Santorno again addressed the judge.
The state would be requesting a $75,000 bail amount in this case. This defendant presents a clear danger to the community. The charges are fairly self-evident. The prosecutor would also request that I note for the court that the gun used in this offense has not been recovered.
Detectives said evidence at the scene and the nature of the victim's wound indicated he had been struck by a ricochet. Judge Anderson set bail at $60,000 and remanded Standing Rock back to the county jail. The Montana Standard has asked a judge to make negotiations on the Butte Hill Superfund public after 14 years. The newspaper reports that the Standard and the Silverbow Creek Headwaters Coalition filed papers in federal court in Butte on Tuesday, seeking permission to intervene in the case. The case is between the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, and the Atlantic Richfield Company, or ARCO, over cleanup issues left from decades of mine pollution. If the judge grants the newspaper's initial request, both the Standard and the Coalition will argue in federal court why it's important to lift the veil of secrecy from the cleanup negotiations. The Superfund litigation will decide long-term, multi-million-dollar cleanup responsibilities for cleanup of Butte Hill. The litigation's already gone for more than 20 years. After 5 years of negotiations, the state of Montana has finally reached a settlement with ExxonMobil over a ruptured pipeline that leaked oil into the Yellowstone River back in 2011. Montana Attorney General Tim Fox explains.
In this case, we've settled with ExxonMobil for $12 million. There's a consent decree that was filed in court, signed by all the parties, including the federal government, and there will be a public comment period for 30 days, not only on the consent decree. There's also a restoration plan that is made public, and there's a 30-day comment period for that.
The negotiations took 5 years because a great deal of work needed to be done to discern the cleanup costs and the effects of the oil spill. The fines will go towards restoring fish and animal habitat as well as ensuring recreational use of the river.
We may need to acquire some terrestrial or riparian bottomland along the Yellowstone River. There's approximately 85 miles of river that was affected. We'll have to control invasive woody species that are now can crop up since other vegetation may have been damaged, down trees and what have you that had to be removed because they were oil soaked.
The proposed settlement, a draft resolution plan, can be viewed online on the Montana Attorney General's website. There's a link to that on our story on KGVO, Newstalk, KGVO.com. A Billings water pipe supply company has paid a $350,000 fine for a scheme to defraud the Chippewa Cree tribe. MT Waterworks pleaded guilty in May to criminal charges that had claimed an Indian ownership preference to get federal and tribal contracts. The contracts include more than $3.3 million from the Chippewa Cree tribe for work on a federally funded water system project. The Billings Gazette reports U.S. District Judge Brian Morse imposed the fine during the company's September 15th sentencing hearing in Great Falls. Federal prosecutors say former state representative Tony Belcourt bought into MT Waterworks with $100,000 in federal stimulus money embezzled from the water system project. Belcourt was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison in order to pay $667,000 in restitution for accepting bribes and kickbacks in awarding tribal contracts. Our News Talk time now, 6:12.
News Talk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Mostly cloudy skies with scattered showers today and daytime highs in the upper 50s. Winds will be quite breezy out of the northeast at 5 to 15 miles per hour. Areas of rain tonight. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for Missoula's KECI 13.